But the covenant is etched in stone. So whatever you messed up, get kicked out of the land, guess what? You got to wind up back in the land at some point because the covenant must be kept. So land going to belong to Israel. Ain't no question about that. Let's go to Luke chapter 21. Go ahead and read. Luke 21 and verse 20. Luke 21 and verse 20. 21 and 20. And when you get it, go ahead and read. 21 and 20. 21 and 20. Okay, go ahead and read, brother.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies.
Now, this is Lord, Israel, they got kicked out of the land. Then they was taken back to the land. Now the Lord is about to kick them out again. Why? Because when they got back in there, they started doing the same old dumb stuff that got them kicked out in the first place. Okay. The Lord even told Jeremiah before Israel went down into Babylon. He said if they would just keep my Sabbath day, then they can remain in the land, and there will be kings riding cherubs, and this land will remain forever, didn't it?
Yes, sir.
So Israel didn't do that, did he? So what did the Lord do? He kicked them out. Now you done went down there, Nebuchadnezzar, and whooped your head for 70 years. What do you do as soon as you get back in the land? You start breaking the Sabbath day all over again. Because Nehemiah jumped them about that, didn't he? He said, man, don't you remember why we got in trouble in the first place? And now here you are doing the same old dumb stuff again. You better stop this right now. I'm going to come down there and lay hands on you. You ain't going to mess it up, not on my watch anyway. After I'm gone, you might mess it up, but not on my watch. Now, here Israel is about to go back in captivity again because it was obvious that they had started back doing the same old thing, and God done told them. He told you all the way, we just read all the way back in Leviticus, that the Lord told them what would happen to them if they didn't keep his Sabbaths and keep his commandment, that he would tear up the cities, tear up the sanctuary, and take Israel into bondage, right?
That's right.
Well, the proof was in the pudding because they knew what they had done during the days of Nebuchadnezzar. But what do? You start back doing the same stuff all over again. Start reading at Luke 21, read verse 20, then skip to verse 23. Go ahead and read.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
Now he said, when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is near. Because he told, the Lord said that he going to lay their cities in the desolation, didn't he?
Right.
Now you got the armies. These are the Roman army here, and they are surrounding the city. He said, when you see it, know that the desolation thereof is near. Go ahead and read on.
But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days.
Go ahead.
For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people.
See what he said? There would be great distress in the land, and there would be wrath, he said, upon this people. Who is this people? This people are the Israelites that was there in the land at that time. Go ahead and read on.
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword.
And notice what Jesus, now this is Jesus talking here. This ain't Jeremiah, Isaiah, or Moses, or none of the prophets. This is Jesus talking, and he said, they shall fall by the edge of the sword. Go ahead and read on.
And shall be led away captive into all nations.
Wait a minute, not migrate into all nations. Be led away captive into all nations. If you are looking to identify who the real Israelites are, then you must find a people that have been led away captive into all nations. If you go back and look at their history and find out that they was not led away captive, sometime after this, you understand what I'm saying? If you find a people that's calling themselves Israelites and you say, well, how did your forefathers get here? They said, well, we migrated here. Well, you are not Israel then, buddy.
Right.
And you go there and ask those other people who claim they are Israelites, and you say, well, how did your forefathers get here? We was led away captive. You the one. I don't care what the world say, you are the one. You know how I know you the one? Because you fit the description that the Bible gave for Israel. Right. There is a description. You understand what I'm saying? And this is merely part of the description. Like you looking for a criminal here. You say, well, you know, he was about 6'8", and he was heavy set, and he was dark skinned. He had a scar here, and he had another scar there. And you look at this guy, and he's about 5'7", weighing about 150. He ain't got no scar here. He ain't got no scar there. You ain't the one, buddy.
That's right.
You don't fit the description. You understand what I'm saying? That is how God set it up. You understand? Now, let's go. Now he said, and they would be led away captive into all nations. For how long? Go ahead, read on.
Middle of 24.
Uh-huh.
And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
Meaning Israel wouldn't be in the land until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. You know what time that is? That is at the second coming of the Lord.
Sir.
So now, whoever said what, it does not matter. The Lord said that Israel would be led away captive into all nations until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. You got to find a people that have been led away captive and that have still not returned to their land. You say, well, what about 1948? What about it? Because the Lord said until the time of the Gentile be fulfilled. You know what's going to fulfill the time of the Gentile? The second coming of Jesus. So if Jesus have not made his second coming, that means that Israel is not in the land yet. I don't care what they tell you. Somebody have taken on your name and your identity, but the thing is, if you had read the description, if everybody had read the description in the Bible, then they would know that that is not Israel. But nobody bothers to read the description. You know why? Because they tell you, oh man, you don't need to read the Bible. Especially the Old Testament. Please don't read that. Because they didn't have a clue what was going on. Well, if they didn't have a clue, then none of the apostles had one either. Because they say everything they got it out of the law and out of the prophets. See, they done made you believe that the apostles came up with something entirely different than what the prophets had.
Yes, sir.
But Paul made it very clear. Everything I believe in, I get it out of the law and out of the prophet. And if you look at what they taught, they always quoted scripture out of the law and out of the prophets. Even Jesus quoted scripture out of the law and out of the prophets. He didn't need to teach you out of the law and out of the prophet, but he set the precedent. You understand what I'm saying? Because everything he taught it out of the law and out of the prophets. Let's go further. Now, he said, and they would be led away captive into all nations until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Let's go now to Luke chapter 13, and we'll pick it up at verse 34. Luke 13, and we'll begin reading at verse 34. 13 and 34. Oh, my God. 13 and 34. I got to step it up a minute here, y'all. 13 and 34. Okay, go ahead and read.
O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, which killest the prophets and stonest them that are sent unto thee.
Now he's talking about the Israelites. He said, it killeth the prophets and stoneth them that are sent unto thee. Go ahead and read on.
How often would I have gathered thy children together, as a hen doth gather her brood under her wings, and ye would not.
So now this is Jesus. He's talking about gathering Israel. Why is he going to gather them? He told you they would be led away captive. Why is he going to gather them? Because the promise that he made to Abraham must be fulfilled. So even though you're going to get kicked out of the land, you got to go back. That's why Jesus said, how often I would have gathered them, but they would not. They got to wind up back in the land because the promise must be fulfilled. Go ahead and read some more.
Behold, your house is left unto you desolate.
Now what is this house? Then he said when you be led away captive, then he said your land will lie in desolation. Well, this is the house that is left unto you desolate. Go ahead and read on.
And verily I say unto you, ye shall not see me until the time come when ye shall say, blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord.
Now that is at his second coming, and Israel will be led away captive until that time. Now let's go to Genesis chapter 12, and we'll begin reading at verse 1 and show you another promise that the Lord made unto Abraham. You know, that promise had to do with Israel, the nation of Israel, possessing that land even for an everlasting possession. That's all it had to do. It didn't have to do with nothing else. Wasn't about no salvation. It was merely about Israel possessing that land for an everlasting possession. That's all it was about. But God made promises unto Abraham, and this is another promise that he made unto him. Genesis chapter 12, and we'll begin reading at verse 1. Genesis 12, and we'll pick it up at verse 1. 12 and 1. Okay, we get it? Go ahead and read. 12 and 1. Go ahead.
Now the Lord had said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee.
Now this was before Abraham. The name was changed to Abraham. He was called Abram. Now the Lord said unto him, get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. Go ahead and read on.
And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing.
Go ahead.
And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee.
Go ahead and read.
And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed.
Now you done said something else to Abraham. This ain't got nothing to do with just a nation, is it?
That's right.
This got to do with everybody now, doesn't it? He said, and in thee, Abraham, will all families of the earth be blessed. Now, Lord added a little something to that. Let's go to Genesis chapter 22, and we'll pick it up at verse 1. Genesis chapter 22, and we'll begin reading at verse 1. So now all families of the earth are included in the promise now, whereas it was just Israel that included that one promise was merely about the nation of Israel. Now we have all families of the earth included, and this means Israel as well. This does not exclude Israel, because we're going to find out this is about salvation here. This promise is about salvation. The other promise that he made to Abraham was about Israel going back and possessing some land. Now, Genesis chapter 22, and began reading at verse 1. 22 and 1. Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham, and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, behold, here I am.
Go ahead and read.
And he said, take now thy son, thine only son Isaac.
Wait, now he said, now take now thy son, thy only son. God say your only son, right? But then what about Ishmael? He wasn't the seed of the promise, therefore he wasn't counted.
That's right.
You know, Paul broke that down in the 9th chapter of Romans, didn't he?
That's right.
He said, now, the Lord said, take now thy son, thy only son, because really, in this case, Isaac was a type of Jesus. He was a type. Go ahead and read on.
Middle of 2. Whom thou lovest,
Go ahead.
and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of.
Now he said, get thee into the land of Moriah. Actually, you know, when you search scripture, you will find out that this is the spot that the Lord had Solomon to build a temple at. Now, let's go to, let's skip now to verse 10. Go ahead and read on.
And Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son.
Now, and Abraham, he was going to obey God. Now, Abraham took the knife, and he stretched forth his hand, and he was about to slay his son. Go ahead and read on.
And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, here I am. And he said, lay not thine hand upon the lad,
Go ahead.
neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me.
Now, Abraham was about to sacrifice this boy unto the Lord, wasn't he?
Yes, sir.
And what other only begotten son that you know of that was sacrificed unto the Lord?
Jesus.
You know, like I said earlier, you know, Isaac was merely a type of the Lord here. Go ahead and read on.
verse 13.
Go ahead and read.
And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by his horn. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son.
Go ahead and read.
And Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah Jireh. And it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it shall be seen.
Go ahead and read.
And the angel of the Lord called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time, and said, By myself have I sworn, saith the Lord.